at the end of the day, what even is normal? Like, we're all just existing on spectrums of lived experience and coping mechanisms and our own version of truth. The important thing is, like, what do you want to feel when this kind of thing happens? Hey guys, welcome back. This is my second take because I forgot my ring light. I love you so much. So I recently took on some virtual assistant work for a friend of mine, Claire, who has relocated to Spain, and I'm so envious, to help them prepare for their 5th annual Neurodiverse Entrepreneur Summit. Now, unfortunately, I did not get this episode out in time to tell you about the summit in advance because by the time this comes out, it is over, and I am sorry. But it's very, very cool. And if that sounds cool to you, you should stick around and sign up for Claire's email list and everything so that you hear about it when the next summit comes around next year. So as far as freelancing goes, I've had a very on again, off again relationship with it. It helped me make a career pivot into marketing after I got a master's degree in education and then didn't get any jobs in higher education, which is what my focus was in. So I ended up freelancing as a social media writer, a product description copywriter, just did some freelance copywriting that eventually helped me pivot into marketing, capital M, TM. And I ended up in a corporate job making $70,000 a year doing content marketing management. And then I quit that job and I got another freelance gig part-time with an environmental nonprofit. And this gave me a way to stay afloat while I was building my business. It also has helped me bring in some extra funds when business was not exactly smooth and sustainable, because that is the nature of business. It is uppy downy. And that's just a fact. I work with clients who freelance, and so having that background helps me point them to the right resources, coach them on the fact that you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. Freelancing has given me a lot of life experience. But also I have been taking a step back this year to any additional work. I've actually reduced my workload significantly. Well, I moved my workload from my own business over to a couple of reliable part-time jobs because I burned out. I was super burning out in my business, and more reflection on that will be coming because I'm starting to really distill some learnings there. But I love Claire. I love this summit. I always meet somebody amazing, and it's a once a year thing. I call it being a triage VA. So I can come in and be like, oh, you're totally drowning because you're doing this one really busy period. I will help you with this, and then I will fuck off and go away forever because I don't want to be a VA every single day. If it was a weekly job that I had with Claire, I would not do it. I would refer them out to somebody else who wanted to be a VA all the time. I like coming in and fixing a problem for somebody. And Claire, the whole time that I'm working with them on this summit, they're like, oh my God, you're amazing. You're the best. You're my own personal Jesus. That was a quote from last year, 2025, personal Jesus, Claire Panacea. But for 6 to 8 weeks, I'm like, yeah, I can work on the weekends. I can bring in a little extra cash because I already know the systems, etc., yada, yada. And I also honestly love that Claire trusts me. Every single year, Claire, in the middle of June, will be like, oh my God, can you help me with the summit again? And I'm like, yes, of course, because I love you. So why am I telling you this whole story? It is because I work 24 hours a week at my part-time job. I work with Colorful Futures as a neurodivergent and queer career coach. And I also help do marketing for Colorful Futures. I can work up to 8 hours a week. And then I also took on this project with Claire. And my plan was that I would work weekends to either do Claire stuff or Colorful Future stuff. But 6 to 8 weeks of working weekends is fine. That's a season of work, which I can then follow with a season of rest and protecting my weekends. Alas, my body was not having it. So I would wake up on a Sunday and be like, I'm going to get work done. And then my whole body was like, no, you're not. You're going to take a nap. So I hit a wall. I wanted to work. It was at least 2 or 3 weekends that this happened to me out of my 6 to 8. So half of the weekends, I wasn't getting the work that I wanted to get done, which means that I then had to do my Claire work because it was very deadline pressing during the week if I wasn't getting all of that stuff done on weekends. And so I wasn't billing my colorful futures hours because I wasn't doing the work for CF. So I fell a little behind there. And also just a note to anybody who's anxious for my job security, literally all of us at Colorful Futures will be like, hey, I'm so sorry I disappeared because my brain said no. And that's working with neurodivergent bosses is a godsend for neurodivergent people, because I can be like, hey, sorry, my brain said no. And that is a legitimate reason why I didn't get as much as I possibly could done. And we're going to talk way more about that because this episode is about my deep shame about not working as much as I can. So I wake up on a Monday morning after having a restful Sunday, and I felt bad about myself. And, you know, I love to sit and simmer in my bad mood and figure out why I feel bad about myself. And I figured out, like, I woke up feeling anxious, stressed, my heart beat a little faster. The shame of like not paycheck maxing was weighing very heavy on me. And I realized that I was operating from this assumption that if money is available to me, I should work harder for it. I left money on the table by not maxing out my time cards. And that is, at best, foolish, irresponsible, but I deserve to be punished for it, is the conclusion that my tasty brain came away with. So welcome to my new project, a segment I like to call What If I Was Normal? The show where we go spelunking through my trauma to figure out why I am the way that I am. So hi. If you haven't met me yet, I'm Caitlin Fisher, author of The Gaslighting of the Millennial Generation, holder of a psychology degree, enthusiast of the human brain, and former Dave Ramsey enthusiast. So I was a big Dave Ramsey shill for a while, and that I think is relevant to my, the Catholic guilt I feel. And I've never been a Catholic at all, but Dave Ramsey brings a sort of evangelicalism to personal finance that really ingrains itself into a traumatized person. So today we're going to talk about working for money, the direct relation between work, money, and how you feel about yourself. So part of my process as I unpack the raccoons in a trench coat that pass for Caitlin's coping mechanisms is to start on the surface. So what are the top level thoughts creating this deeper reaction of feeling shitty and anxious and bad and like I deserve to be punished? And so I work through this, I journal, I do whatever. And then I can isolate a thought that explains this chain reaction. And the thought was, I must not care about my financial goals if I don't do everything in my power to reach them. That's pretty heavy, y'all. So how do we start to unpack that? And something that I do is when I'm having a thought that is very opinionated and judgy, I like to go find the neutral truth of a situation. So there is a neutral circumstance happening that is merely a fact, right? And so the circumstance is I didn't work on Sunday, or I logged X number of hours for my various clients this week, whether it's Colorful Futures or Claire or whatever. I had a plan to work this many hours and I did not reach it. That's just a neutral ass fact. There is no judgment in that fact. The time has passed. It is Monday. What happened on Sunday cannot be changed. So then we add in this meaning that I've assigned to the circumstance. So if the neutral circumstance in my head means I must not care about my financial goals, how does that make me feel? Well, it makes me feel like garbage because I want to care about the goals I set. But also, did you catch that? I want to care. I want to care. Gotta lean in so you can really get my air quotes. I want to care about the goals I set. I haven't even touched on, do I care? But I'm already judging myself really, really hard over this perceived failure. If this sounds familiar to you, I'm very sorry. But let's go on a journey to figure out what we might do differently if we were normal. Also, what even is normal? So, hey, welcome to What If I Was Normal? Within my own personal parfait of mental illness, because it has layers, like an ogre, like an onion, like a parfait, I am so judgy. I hold myself to a crazy standard. I can find compassion for almost any other human being on this planet, but I hold myself to this impossible standard of objective perfection, which does not exist because, what is objective perfection? There's no such thing. Everything is subjective when we are judging, how good or bad something is. There's no objective perfection. I was about to go off on a tangent, but I saved you from that. I saved you from me. So as I'm sitting here digging around in my brain, rooting around, getting those raccoons out of here, I realized I feel shame when I'm not in the top percentile. My ingrained belief is I should know better and I should do better than everyone else because that is what keeps me safe and secure. Like I am the main character of the world and God is judging all of humanity just based on me, but I am not that special. I'm literally not. I'm just a little guy. So to help me remember that I'm not that special and I'm just one of billions of people on this planet, I turn to one of my favorite sources for finding out what the average is, and that is the Pew Research Center. So the Pew Research Center, I pulled a lot of my data for the gaslighting of the millennial generation from Pew. I love it. They do a lot of studies all the time. And so just this month, July 2026, they released a report called Majorities of Americans Say Key Financial Milestones Are Harder for Today's Young Adults to Reach. And I was like, by golly, that sounds like it's relevant to me and my little shame spirals. So the facts and figures that we're going to pull out of here. Majority of respondents think that young adults have it harder than their parents. So if I'm the young adult, we're judging me versus my parents. Now I feel like young people is probably more like your Gen Z, Gen Alpha, but probably just Gen Z. Where's Gen Alpha? I feel like they're in school still. Who knows? I should know. I'm the millennial generation person. Anyway, let me take a sip of my drink. Also, I was snuggling my cat earlier, so there's like cat hair floating around my face and it's making me feel itchy. And I'm really not a fan, French toast. Why you gotta be like this? That just made it worse. Oh my God. Ugh. Okay, I'm back. So, majority of people think young adults have it harder than their parents. 64% of adults say it is harder for young people to find a job than it was for their parents. Compared to 5 years ago, when this same study was done, 39% thought that young adults had a harder time finding a job than their parents in 2021. So that is, that's up by quite a bit. That's up by what, 26% for 2026. So that's up like over a quarter more respondents were like, yeah, no, it's harder for people to find a job these days. 15% of people think it's easier for young people to find a job compared to their parents. And that's delusional, but hey, that's down from 40% in 2021. So that 25% just moved from, I think it's easier to, I think it's harder. And good. That means you have eyes. I'm proud of you. 87% said that it's harder for young adults to buy a home compared to their parents. Yeah, I'm surprised it's not higher, but that is almost 9 out of 10 people. Only 70% thought it was harder for young adults to buy a home 5 years ago. So more and more and more, we're closing in on 100%. And 80% say it is harder for young adults to cover basic expenses than it was for their parents. So this honestly helps me with the anxiety spiral. I love to go find a fact to compare my despair to. So like it is apparent that it is more expensive to live just generally. Like no matter how much I care about my financial goals, they are harder to achieve now than they were in the past. And I realized as I was like putting all these numbers together that I'm comparing myself to a very specific time in my life. So I was living with my mom and stepdad when I was going through my first divorce. And I moved in with them for about 6 months. And about halfway through that, I got my first ever full-time big girl job. And my salary was $40,000 a year with a master's degree in 2012. 2012? Yeah, 2012. So it's been a minute. I mean, it's only been 14 years. Wow. Okay. So I was making $40K. When I got this job, I'm living with my parents. And to my parents, I was paying $50 a month, which they set aside and gave to me to like buy furniture and stuff, which was very, very sweet. And I also had to apply to 5 jobs a week. That was part of my rent agreement with my mom. And at first, she also wanted access to my bank statements so that she could monitor and judge every dollar I spent. And I think that fear has lived within me. So like that sense of knowing that she would be there to bring the hammer down on anything that she thought was inappropriate for me to spend money on is apparently still alive and well in my psyche. So we got to work on that. We got to kick mom out of my brain because she doesn't live here. So I lived with them for 6 months. Before I moved out, I paid off my credit card. I refinanced my car. Mom was very approving of these things. And then when I had been at the job for like a good 3 months, I found an apartment and I moved out, and I think it is the only place I've ever lived all by myself. And honestly, I kind of miss that sometimes. Like only being responsible for you. That's tasty. It's so beautiful. It was just me and my cat in this tiny apartment, like 500 square feet above a storefront. And it was so adorable. It was on Madison in Lakewood, Ohio, like so walkable. I could walk to the farmer's market. I could walk to 1,000 different cafes and bookstores and plant shops. Like, oh God, it was the perfect Caitlin apartment. I'm so mad that I left it when I did. I left it to move in with my stupid poopy pants abuser. Don't let a man move you out of an apartment that you love. That's Caitlin's advice. That's my big sibsterly advice to you today. Also, the rent was only $515. And because I am a crazy person, I looked up their email address and emailed them yesterday to check on what the rent was these days. And it's just under $1,000. So this apartment has basically doubled in rent cost, but they have added on-site laundry, which is a bonus. That's pretty cool. And parking, apparently. It was four different tenants, and we all had to we just raced to the single parking spot that was off the street. And it was like, hey, whoever gets home gets dibs. Good luck. So this is when I discovered Dave Ramsey and became very annoying to anybody who would listen to me. So I closed all my credit cards because Dave said that's what you do. And I aggressively paid down my car loan, paid it off early, technically. And it just really chaps my ass and burns my biscuits. Technically, my last final check to them was a few cents shy of what I needed to pay off the balance. And because it was a joint account with my mom from when I was in high school, they called her to be like, hey, do you want us to just transfer over this remaining 28 cents to close out this car loan? And my mom said yes. And so then she was like, well, technically I paid off your car. And I'm like, no, you didn't. But while I was doing all this stuff, being really good with money, this is when being good with money, capital letters, TM, became a character trait that made me feel really good about myself. What I didn't realize was that I was also internalizing and teaching myself that being bad with money is something that I should be ashamed of, something that feels bad. And so I turned it into a very black and white thing of you're either good with money and you're allowed to feel good about that, or you're bad with money and you should be freaking ashamed of yourself because how dare you? When good with money is right there and you're going to be bad with money? Ugh. Okay, so to any of my beloveds watching this who are going through similar things, there is so much more than good with this and bad with this, right? There's so much layers and nuance and other stuff going on. So we're going to go on a little deep divey. So we're gonna get in there. We're gonna untangle it like Christmas lights. That's how I think about trauma. Is it's like you get this big ball of tangled up Christmas lights, and you do have to sit there, and it is annoying, and you have to very carefully find the places where maybe the ends are. You got to find the loose areas and kind of pry them out until finally you have a usable string of Christmas lights. So that's what this process allowed me to do. Was I woke up on a Monday feeling this shame, and I said to myself, hey brain, where's all this coming from? So we go through it, we find the erroneous thought or belief, right? Well, I must not care about my goals. That's fake. That's fake news. That's made up. That's something that the mom who lives in my brain says. And like I said earlier, she doesn't live here. She doesn't go here. She has been expelled from my life and apparently not my brain. And that's really hard because it's well, I tried to go no contact, but she does live inside my head. Is it no contact? Is it no contact if her ghost haunts me in my brain? I don't know. Also, this is not to frickin' say that oh, my mother broke me and I'm all messed up because of my mother. Oh, my mother did break me, but she's not solely responsible. But also what are you going to do to a child and to a young adult who is raised in this very, like, if you don't do it right, you're a bad kid kind of world. That's a little messed up, right? That's a little messed up. And it is for my younger self that I am doing this work. I actually cut out a couple of my old school pictures and put them in my office so that I can see them every day. And I'm like, hey, I work on myself for you because you deserve to not be terrified all the time. So what if I was normal? At the end of the day, what even is normal? Like, we're all just existing on spectrums of lived experience and coping mechanisms and our own version of truth. The important thing is, like, what do you want to feel when this kind of thing happens? So the next time that I wake up on a Monday and I didn't work hard all weekend, how do I want to feel? I want to feel rested. I want to feel confident. I want to feel like I made the right choice for me. And I also want to have systems in place so that I know when I can say yes to additional work and when I can't. And perhaps like recalibrate the workload. Maybe, on a time that I'm doing this VA work, maybe I can't max out my time cards because I just don't have it in me. Like, I work 24 hours, 8 hours, and then Claire has been like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 hours a week. So like that's getting up there toward 40, which is, quote, normal, because that's our average work week here. But even that is just made up and arbitrary. Like, the 40-hour work week is a social construct. It's been a pretty good one. Like, thank you, labor movement, for weekends. We love them. And now Bernie Sanders is trying to get the work week down to 32 hours with no cut in pay. And people really simping for capitalism out here. Where they're like, how is that fair to the company? And I'm like, the company where the CEO makes more than you make in a year just by taking a breath? Like, check yourself. Get your head out of their ass. Anyway, I love you. And this has been What If I Was Normal? A deep dive exploration of Caitlin's kind of messed up little brain. Love you. There's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you next time. Peace.
Don't change your approach and tell you a joke to lighten your load and help you along or sing you a song. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do.